Hi, this is Shar with Law for Love, and thank you for sitting and having this conversation with me about womanhood. I want to start this conversation by just bringing to your awareness, if it has not already been painfully obvious to you, that having been a family attorney, I have had a backstage pass to literally thousands of relationships. And my access to those relationships have given me an incredible exposure to patterns and insights. And so when I make observations and then I come to conclusions, this isn't just coming off the dome. This is coming from literally making observations, asking questions, carefully considering, and then even going back to my own situation and asking some very hard questions. And so it's almost like the scientific process. What's it called? The scientific method in in school. So I want to preface this conversation that way because we're going to be talking a lot about being a woman at the, we're at the age of artificial intelligence. And we've already been molded by the technological age. And we all have cell phones and access to the internet. And interestingly enough, with all of our access to information, and even to one another, to hear one another, to learn from one another, to support one another. Ladies, the things that I'm going to be sharing with you in these conversations around womanhood, they're going to piss you off. They're going to make you very upset with me because I am the messenger. And I have to accept that being a messenger of truth is going to get stones thrown at you. So this is the introduction to a conversation that we're going to continue to have because, ladies, somebody taught most of us that our womanhood or our femaleness was defined by our body parts. So if having a vagina and breasts is what makes you female, then that leaves the door open to a lot of the crazy that's taking place in our relationships with men. And yes, I have to speak to male-female relationships because that's really all I know. I'm married to a man and my children are all male. And all of my siblings are male. So my perspective in these conversations is as a woman in relationship with men. That's my worldview because that's my experience. So I don't say anything to exclude you from the conversation. I'm just speaking from my life experience. So back to the vagina. Womanhood is not the status of having a vagina. It is not the status of having breasts. Vaginas and breasts are primarily constructs for the sake of getting other human beings here and feeding them. And that might seem basic, but that's the starting point when we're considering what it is to be a woman, I mean, let me just go ahead and shout out our older women here. You know, women over the age of 40. If you're talking to, you know, a young woman, a daughter, a niece, you know, a goddaughter, as an older woman, what is one of the things that you want to share with a younger woman? You want that younger woman to know, girl, listen, what's between your legs? We all have it. We all have the same anatomy. And yeah, it might be a little more cutely packaged in your teenage 20-something-year-old body. But if you think your vagina is going to keep your man, you have a lot of living and learning to do, honey. Because what he needs is so much deeper than that part of your body. And so that's what I like to call old folk wisdom. Because, you know, when you're teenage, 20-something, you get all this attention because of how that body snatched up. It's easy to believe that your womanhood is your body. But as you continue to grow older, maybe you have some babies. Now, don't get it twisted. It's some sisters out here, they pop them babies out and that body, they come right back in the shape. They, you know, they take care of themselves and they keep it tight. But whether or not it's a woman who has managed to keep it tight after having children, or a woman who lets herself go after having children, they're both still women. And if you're a woman who doesn't have children, you're part of this conversation as well. I'm not excluding anybody based on your marital status or whether or not you've had children. But we're talking about being a woman. And the starting point about being a woman is that our womanhood is more than having a vagina and breasts. And we are living in a society where you need to define what you're talking about. Because if womanhood is simply having a vagina and breasts, then all human creation can become a woman. I'll also go ahead and give you a preview when it comes to these conversations around womanhood. I'm also going to be sharing with you my own gender transition story and why that's such an important part of this conversation as well. Yes, I said gender transition, gender reassignment. How I have gone through gender reassignment and what that means for many of us. If you grow up in the 80s and 90s, I would even dare say the 70s, but definitely in the 80s and 90s, then many of you, like myself, were probably a little tomboyish. You probably like to roughhouse with the boys. You may have even grown up where you realized that you and other girls didn't really get along. And most of your friends were boys. And for me, it was so natural because my closest friend was my baby brother. We were only 18 months apart. He was my best friend. And he was a friendly kid. He was a funny kid. So he had a lot of friends. So all of his friends being at our house made them my friends too. And I got to understand boys up close and personal from a young girl as just being their friend. And it was very hard to go through that transition of puberty. And now they notice that my body is changing in ways that makes them want to touch and grab and experiment. when all I wanted to do was play tackle football because I was as tough as the rest of them, because at that age I was bigger than them. I was bigger than the boys. I could pick them up on my shoulders and swing them around and throw their little body. I mean, that was me growing up. That was me growing up as a tomboy. But what I didn't know, that I'm unpacking now and I'm sharing with you ladies, is that I had been energetically transgendered to male. And I didn't realize it. And it's really, really hard to recognize when you are a heterosexual female who's not necessarily like, like you don't look any kind of tough or manly. You're just like soft, like me. I'm squishy. So for me to recognize that I had been energetically transgendered, that wasn't an obvious one, y'all, because I've always liked boys and I've always appreciated and toyed around with the sexual attention from males, which made me a very interesting social creature. Y'all say that, an interesting social creature. Because by the time I reached puberty, I knew maleness. Excuse me. I was very comfortable with maleness, around maleness. But puberty created a very unique transition where my body and the way that males respond to the development of my body, it empowered me with something that I can control them with, something that I could manipulate them with, something that I could use to draw them with. And I'm just telling my transgender story. I'm not out here coming for anybody else. I'm telling my story. And this is how and why, by the time I was 14, I was pregnant, because there was a fascination with sex. It was in all of our music. It was in all of the music videos. And as a teenager growing up in the 90s, I didn't have the wherewithal to question the things that I watched. I just watched it and I liked it. I watched the TV talk shows of people fighting over somebody slept with their man, and like the drama of it all. Like, I was a part of the experiment. And I got. And for many years, I struggled in and out of relationships because in my mind, if I please a man sexually, he should do what I want him to do. That was my understanding. That's what I learned. That's what I emulated, because you had female rappers at the time. When you listen to their lyrics, what they were talking about was the power of sex over a man and how you should use it to get what you want. Most of the time, that messaging was about getting stuff, getting money, getting, cars, jewelry, whatever. I mean, let's keep it real. If you grew up in the 90s like I did, you were 80s, 90s baby, in those early ages of hip hop, let's think about what those messages were teaching us, because they were teaching us womanhood. They were telling us what a woman is. And according to the construct of hip hop in the 90s, a woman was fiercely sexy and used her sex to get what she wanted from a man. That's the starting point, y'all. And today I'm here to tell you, honey, your little, look, some of y'all call it a pocketbook, your little VJ, your little pouch. Girl, that don't define you as no woman. And you are not keeping a man because of that. You are not keeping a man because of that. So I'll wrap up this talk by giving you some insight, right? Like, okay, Shard, like, who are you and why do you get to make these claims? Well, this year makes 14 years of marriage to an incredibly strong man. And I mean, he is strong. He's strong, he's intelligent. He is a man who fears God. And he is a man who is very comfortable in his maleness. And then it's been a good thing for me to help me understand and unpack my own masculinity. I'm going to say that again. Being married for 14 years to a very strong male is how I learned to unpack my own masculinity. But wait a minute, Shari, you're calling yourself masculine, but you're married to a man, and that's the whole point why we're having this conversation, ladies. Because we were transgendered. And we have been moving with a male energy. I'm still looking for another word, but right now we're going to call it male energy. We have been moving with a male dominant energy. And it has been so subtle because we appear to be feminine. And we like men. But we move like men energetically. And if you want to bring harmony into your relationship with your man, and again, I can only talk to the ladies that's with a man. That's all I know. But if you want to find harmony with your man, then unpacking your masculinity is going to be the starting point to getting you back to that place of your original design and identifying all of the places where you were taught junk about what it was to be a female. Because believe it or not, right now, the men that I work with, they love women. And they want a woman in their life that is going to be a safe place for them. We've dominated the narrative, ladies. We want to be safe. We want to demand safety from our men, but our men are not safe with us because energetically, we're dudes. We're dudes. And when a man feels threatened by another male energy, like he's coming for you, like he's coming for you. He doesn't see your breast and your vagina when you're coming at him with that energy. He's not. So what are we going to do about that? And how are we going to unpack that baggage and go through your gender reassignment? I'm just keeping it 100. You were energetically transitioned. Why? And how did you find your way back to be reassigned to your female, your woman? Thank you for joining me. I look forward to talking to you again super soon.